Khalistan. This word has been heard everywhere in the media for a while now. I'm sure you all have heard about it too. But what is Khalistan? Some people say it's a fight for the Sikh community. Some people link it to the farmers' protest. Left liberals call it various names according to their convenience. Anti-national idiots call it a conspiracy theory and that it doesn't even exist. But I say it's a Pakistani project and it's aimed at breaking Bharat, and the cost of this project is the end of Sikhism. After watching this video, you will also agree with me. But first, let's understand the idea of Khalistan and the root cause of it. Around 1940, as the British Empire started falling, the idea of independent Sikh state took birth. It was an invitation called by the Sikh extremists to join their protests by circulating pamphlets titled Khalistan, which meant the land of the Khalsa. During the partition, the British lawyer Cyril John Radcliffe strategically split the areas of Punjab and Bengal into two equal halves. This led to great violence in these areas. At that time, Khalistan was a purely emotional outcome of the Sikh extremism which faded away after the partition. The idea of an independent Khalistan itself is a backward idea, only suitable to that India before independence. It didn't have any economic or democratic logic to it. That's exactly why Indian Punjabis themselves didn't like this idea, which can be seen in the Punjab elections, where anti-separatist parties have been elected again and again. In the 1971 war, we all know how the Bharatiya Sena destroyed the Pakistan army. 93,000 Pakistani troops surrendered and bowed down in front of the Indian army on a single day, on 16th December. This was the biggest surrender before any country in the history. The best part of this war was the way how just 120 soldiers of Punjab 23 regiment humiliated 3,000 Pakistani soldiers, fully equipped, and who actually started the surprise attack. Punjab 23 was under the command of Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri, who is a proud Indian Sikh by the way. India made Bangladesh independent of Pakistan in this war. After this war, Pakistan was humiliated internationally. In response to this international humiliation, their Prime Minister in 1973, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he told some reporters from New Delhi Times that Pakistan would tear off a piece of India, Khalistan, to avenge the loss of 1971. His exact words were, Pakistan will also have a Bangladesh carved out of India, except it will be on Pakistan's border. He declared a 1,000-year war against India in his speech at the UN Security Council. But the Pakistan army knew very well that they can't do anything against India in the battlefield. So their Pakistan army chief, General Zia-ul-Haq, replaced Bhutto's plan of 1,000-year war with his plan of bleeding India through a 1,000 cuts doctrine. It's based on a low-intensity warfare using militancy and infiltration. Punjab insurgency is the first step of this doctrine, followed by Kashmir insurgency. Talvinder Singh Parmar, a mass murderer, a most wanted criminal in India in the 80s, whilst Canada gave him citizenship. A lot of Canadian Sikhs admire him till date. He led the 1985 Air India bomb blast, targeting 2 flights. One blast destroyed the flight number 182 heading to Heathrow Airport. Another bomb failed on the ground. It was the deadliest aviation attack until 9/11. 331 lives were lost in these blasts. But it's just 1.5% of the total people killed in the Khalistani armed struggle. This is the photo of Parmar in a gun market in Pakistan. Parmar was killed in a police shootout in 1992 along with 5 other militants. 2 of them had Pakistani passports, and one of them was Intikhab Ahmad Zia, an ISI informer. This proved that Pakistani intelligence was involved in Khalistani militancy. Gopal Singh Chawla, a leading Khalistani figure, used to meet Hafiz Saeed very frequently. Hafiz Saeed is a Lashkar-e-Taiba leader and chief of Jamaat-ud-Dawa. He directed the Mumbai blast in November 2008. Chawla once told a reporter that Hafiz Saeed was his ideal person. He is an ISI agent who is an expert in training Pakistani spies for espionage, betraying Indian Army and Indian Air Force. Chawla is the secretary of Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee in Pakistan. Remember this point. Satinder Bal Singh, Bhagat Singh Brar, Parokar Singh Dulai, and many more leaders of different Khalistani organizations have been banned as terrorist organizations in the UK, US, Canada and India, but were offered citizenship in the Pakistan. Gurpawan Singh Pannu, you might have seen this guy on the internet. Recently, he tried to provoke Indian Sikhs on the social media and asked them to stop Narendra Modi from hoisting flag on Independence Day. But he was trolled instead. He is a wealthy lawyer based in New York who has political interests vested in the Punjab state. During the India-China border conflicts, he stood with China shamelessly. He promised Imran Khan that he would support Pakistan in any conflict with India, especially in the Kashmir issue. But we don't have to worry about Pannu, he is a joker. Along with him, a few other rich jokers in Canada sought a referendum in November 2020. This time, they painted Khalistan as the land of the pure. But the referendum is banned in India because it's not really pure. This new Khalistan is nothing but a political ambition of cold-blooded Pakistan and a few greedy Canadian politicians and goons. They don't have any work in Canada, so they do these gimmicks like this referendum. Pannu's organization posted a proposed Khalistani map on Facebook in 2019. Now this will reveal the whole Khalistani gang's hypocrisy. The new Khalistanis always complain about the Operation Blue Star, which took place in the regime of Srimati Indira Gandhi, the CEO of ultra-secularism. That is fair enough. No one should forget what happened to some Sikhs after the assassination of Indira Gandhi. But these so-called land of pure fighters never talk about the massacre of more than 250,000 Sikhs in 1947 by the Pakistan. Now let's look at some demographics which will open everyone's eyes. Let's compare the Sikh population in Bharat's Punjab and Pakistan's Punjab. This is the population of Sikhs in Bharat and Pakistan in 1941. 2 million in Pakistan, 6 million in Bharat. And this is their population in 2011. 6,146 in Pakistan, 20.8 million in India. All this happened because of forced conversion, brutal discrimination and attacks on Gurudwaras. Remember Chawla, the secretary of Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee? Even he didn't do anything about Gurudwaras, but always talks about saving Sikh culture. In 2019, this Pannu's organization posted a proposed map of New Republic of Khalistan on their Facebook page. ROK included Rajasthan, Haryana, Delhi, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, but not a single inch is claimed from Pakistan's Punjab. There was no Lahore in the map, which was ruled by Ranjit Singh Maharaj 200 years ago. Also didn't include Nankana Sahib, the sacred birthplace of Guru Nanak Ji, who is the founder of Sikhism himself. This is enough reason to explain why a lot of Indian Sikhs dislike these idiots. Kanwarpal Singh Gill, IPS, the man who ended 11 years of Punjab insurgency. According to him, 21,469 lives were lost in these 11 years, in bombings, shootings, hijackings and stabbings by Khalistani militants. And the most of them were innocent Sikh civilians. 1,400 Punjab police were murdered. This is how Khalistani movement had turned Punjab from a bread breakfast of India to a blood-soaked economic disaster. Not just this, they have completely tarnished the Sikh image internationally. Today when countries like UK and Canada discuss about Sikh community with India, they look at them through the Khalistani lens. That's a huge damage for Sikhs living in other countries. This is not just a revenge plan for Pakistan, it has a lot more to it. It's a long-term strategy by Pakistan with 4 goals. Number 1. Bleeding India was the main goal. Number 2. Buffer state. Punjab's youth is Pakistan's main target. They want to completely soak them in drugs and blood. That's why we see drones dropping guns and drugs in and around Punjab's borders. And we all know how Punjab ranks number 2 when it comes to the most number of drug addicts. Khalistan state would help Pakistan as a buffer route, which will help it in infiltrating militants and terrorists into India. Also smuggle illegal goods like drugs and weapons. Number 3. Khalistan state would cut access of Indian military to Jammu and Kashmir, which will help them in conquering it. Number 4. Khalistan will only be independent from India, but not from Pakistan. The 4th goal, Khalistanis don't realize the 4th goal. I'm not saying this. Former Pakistani ambassador Hussein Haqqani said this in an interview. He also said that Canadian Sikhs are just being used by Pakistan. That's exactly why I call them wealthy idiots. They live in a fancy world, but the actual suffering is done to the Indian Sikhs. Some Canadian Sikhs are very wealthy. Some of them are even politicians in Canada. They just want to rule Khalistan and do dynasty politics. They don't care about Sikhs in India or the blood that caused them. Farmers' protest was just a golden opportunity for these groups to get international coverage to their agenda. And now recently there are attempts being made to divide Hindu-Sikh brotherhood by running social media propaganda. Indian Sikhs should wake up before it's too late. The war has already begun.